Hello, class. Here we go again. I don't have so much nonsense this time, other than what just shows up in the middle of the lecture. So, yeah, I hope you're not disappointed. The reduced nonsense levels. Okay, so here, let's do some admin stuff. The quantitative exercise that was due last Thursday, right? Okay, so, it's only worth 6% of your grade, but get out your calculator. There's a couple of folks haven't been able to get that to me yet, more than a couple. 6% of a grade at 0, even though it's only 6, it's not good. So get that to me. The longer you wait, the less it's worth. So get that to me. You should be able to knock that out pretty quick. Okay, for those of you that have done it, I'm trying to transfer grades to you out there via Blackboard. Let's see if this works. Instead of A, B, C, doesn't seem like it wants to take those kind of grades. I had to put, for instance, an A is a 95, A minus a 92, B plus 87. Okay, so there's some grades out there on the quantitative exercises for those of you who have turned that in. Plus, for each of you, I recorded a little comment. So see if that works. Here, let me look at my roster here. Where's the roster? Everybody doesn't have to send me an email, but how about if your name starts between how about G? If your name ends A to G, could you let me know if you got something there? I mean, everybody doesn't have to do it, but I'd like to know, if your name is A, sure, go to H. Okay, A to H. I don't want you to feel left out. But let me know, did you see a grade for your quantitative assignment? Could you find it? And could you see, could you hear a little message I left for you? Telling you what I thought about your assignment, what grade I gave you. That should be out there somehow. This is all kind of inside turn it in. It's inside turn it in, which is inside Blackboard. Okay, A through H. Clue me in on how that worked for you, if it did. So let's see. Next week, on the floor here. Here, excuse me. I think, yeah. And you probably get tired of seeing, let's see, which ear do you get to see the most of? Oh, you get to see most of that ear, I think, because I'm over here with my stuff off my left hand, which is kind of flipped around. It should be, everything should, but okay, I couldn't flip it around because of the arrangement in my son's bedroom. Okay, quantitative assignment. Let's see what happens next. Next week. Here's what's going on next week. Oh, we have the last case. Guess who's doing the last case? Everybody in class whose name is Alex is doing the last case as presenters. Okay, which means, yeah, okay. But you're the team, the presentation team, including Natalie, to keep them straight, just to balance it out. So everybody named Alex and Natalie are the presenters. Critiquers are Francesca and Jan. Okay, Francesca and Jan are doing a critique, a team doing that. Max and Joe A are critiquers. Those two pairs. Last case. That's the case. Let's see what's happening for articles. Shaw, Anthony. We're going to talk a little bit about stories. That's stories, strategic stories. Hayashi, Claire. So Shaw, et al., Anthony, got it. Hayashi, Claire, we're getting into the gut, how to make decisions. We've got intuition as the doorway to creativity, and then a Dugan article. These are two separate articles. Joe, oh geez, Joe, it's a big night for you, eh? So Joe A, it's a big night for you. You're doing a critique With Max, you're doing the intuition as a doorway in the Dugan articles. These are kind of shorter articles, but in case you need to fill in a little bit, Joe, there's also an insight matrix kind of at the end of the handouts. I think it's in the articles. I think that's where it is. It's in articles, and it's called the insight matrix. It kind of ties in to what's going on in maybe that Dugan article. It's got intuition as a doorway and Dugan. And take a look at the insight matrix. Maybe it'll give you some things to say about those couple articles. Not that you didn't have enough to do already. Martin and Goolsby Smith. That's one article. Brendan is going to take care of that for us next week. And then we've got the creative habit, which is summaries. I think I give you a couple summaries of this book called Creative Habit by Twyla Tharp. Is that it? Twyla Tharp? She's a choreographer, a dancer. And so talks about her methods for creativity. And so you got a couple of summaries. So you're summarizing the summaries, Jake and Maris, but also I threw in the Kelly article, a little Kelly and Kelly, a little one pager out of Wall Street, out of Harvard Business Review. So Jake and Maris have Creative Habit, summarizing the summaries of that book, and Kelly and Kelly. Hot dog, that should fill the day in pretty good. But then, should we look off 2 weeks from today? And 2 weeks from today, we have the value creation paper. This is worth, oh geez, do I have it down here? Let me see. Value creation, 11%. Okay, is worth about as much as, well, the midterm was 12%. The value creation paper is 11%. So read the syllabus. It tells you pretty well what I'm after. Use that model, that value model, and the pieces of it. Remember, you know what I'm talking about, the one we developed for the class. Benefits minus cost equal value, then all those aspects of benefits, all those aspects of cost, and from highly tangible aspects of benefits to highly intangible aspects. Okay, I'd like you to use that model when you do this value creation paper, and don't miss pieces of the model, and don't miss using headings in the paper. If you don't put headings in there, you're not writing like you should. And I'll catch that and make some comment and ding you probably. So pretty sure I'll ding you if you don't use headings. So do that, use that model, read the syllabus, what needs to be done, and you can do any kind of an organization you want to do. I'd prefer it if you did it with a buddy. Pal up, 2 people. No, that's it, at the most. But I'd prefer that just to kind of get stuff done, get it so I can process it back to you. Okay, questions? Good. Okay, send me an email if you have a question. So I think, yeah, okay, here's what's happening. We're entering this new section. We only got 3 days, 3 class days for this new section, because we've left the textbook behind. We had that grand finale lecture last week. That was a killer. There are 3 parts to it. We did everything from international markets, ethics, what the heck? It went on, didn't it? That was a killer. Almost gave you 2.5 hours worth for your money. Today, we'll see how far we get. I got an idea. Yeah, this is probably not going to be as long as that. I'm pretty sure. I hope so. Or else I'll have to go get some oxygen. Have someone resuscitate me or something. So now we're stepping into something fresh and new. It's not in the textbook, and it's not mainline kind of stuff that you've crossed paths with before in marketing. We just took a lot of those things you saw in other marketing classes and some of them moved up a lot of level. Some of them just took my angle on them. But here, this is the idea of whole brain decision making. So how do we make decisions? And last week, several of you thought, yeah, I'd like to be a whole brain decision maker. Yeah, okay, How about this week? Who here would like to be a whole brain? Yeah, I think we added 2 or 3, so I think we're up to 7 of you. But that's okay, that's not bad out of 27. So here's what we're going to talk about. We got 5 articles. I'm going to do my little thing on those articles, and I'll tell you who the experts are who wrote stuff up for you and posted it up there on Blackboard. That's where it is. Okay, on these topics. So whole brain decision making, we're going to do something with that. We're going to talk about, kind of fill that idea in a bit, idea of whole brain decision making. We're going to look at cues to causality, and then we're going to touch into intuition. Okay, so if you're ready, I'm 75% ready. Let's see what we've got here. So what do we know about decision making? How about starting with that? You know, what do we know about decision making? How do we make decisions? You know, decision making is not a science. It's been studied by a lot of folks in different ways, but it's not a science. There's a lot of art to it. So it's been looked at from different angles, but it's a mushy kind of topic, the idea of decision making. It's not real cut and dry. So, of course, because humans are involved, and if humans are involved, that kind of assures that it's not cut and dried. So one of the things okay, so different angles on it, but there are things to consider when making decisions. So what you think about this? What do we know about decision making? How do we make decisions? And this is where you respond, and I scribble some stuff on the overhead. And you know what you do? Usually, let's see if I got that here. Where might that? I'll try to make a point of sticking it in here. Oh, I think I put it back here. Usually what you do is generate like the steps of the decision process, like from consumer behavior. You'll say things like, oh, you got to define the problem, and oh, we need to collect up information, and we've got, you know, we've got to consider stakeholders and all kinds of stuff like that. What you generally kind of generate is something like the decision process from consumer behavior, that basic process. You know, what do we know about decision making? Well, you got to define a problem. Yeah. You got to search for some information, internal, external. We've done this with consumer behavior. We got to evaluate, generate some alternatives and evaluate them. Yeah. And then where am I here? Got my finger over it. Got some choice, make a choice, have to make a decision. The outcomes of the choice, satisfaction, dissatisfaction, dissonance. So we get that basic flow of the decision process. Straight out, this is Dewey, 1910, okay? And we generate that most often. What do we know about decision making? Well, that it's a process. It's not just a discrete act. So we got steps and stages. Last week we talked about discrete decisions and continuous decisions. The light switch kind of on and off, do this or do that. That's the discrete decisions. Or continuous, it's like the rheostat, the dimmer switch on a light, how much kind of decision. So we got that idea, different kinds of decisions you're faced with, discrete or continuous. We talked about response functions and that type of thing. Under response function, you said you could have an intuitive approach to estimating a response function or an analytical approach. From some of that consumer behavior stuff, we got the idea of the decision journey, which is kind of like the flow of the decision process. I mean, it's like this path that you're going down, you know, so you got the idea of a decision journey. So Dewey, steps of the process, there it is, you know. like you've seen in consumer behavior. And there are things that impact the speed and the way you go through that process. I think we got at that before, how much knowledge you have, familiarity, kind of purchase, involvement levels. Okay, a lot of things impact the speed and the way. So that's just basic. There's decision making in a consumer context, but it's like the flow of what I have you do for cases, the flow of the decision process. So things that impact that process, yeah. But one thing, a lot of times when I go through this exercise, especially in this class where I guess I've kind of forewarned you. Sometimes you're not as forewarned. I'm kind of forewarned you about where we're headed with this this part of the class. And so maybe that kind of cues you in to say, oh, we have to think about creative ideas. Oh, how about intuition? A lot of times, the affective side of things, the feeling side of things, a lot of times that doesn't come up. A lot of times ethics doesn't come up. Like last week we talked about that a little bit. A lot of times that doesn't come up. So where are we going? We're going off to, hear about analysis and, back to intuitive analytical approaches for, especially the analytical, heavy on that. Well, we're going off, we're going to take a walk on the right side of the brain, the wild side, whatever. Walk on the wild side, the right side of the brain, the soft side of decision making. But you know what? You've got a whole brain. And there's at least 7 of us that think maybe it'd be worth thinking about the whole brain. So here's what I'm doing with this topic. Here's a way to think about it. Maybe I'll show you this first. This is the old, it's actually a poem. And it was written by, what was that guy's name? Did I have his name here someplace? Sachs, S-A-X-E, back in 1887 or so. It's the idea of the blind men. You don't have this handout, it just has a number on it. The name of the poem was The Blind Men and the Elephant. It was 6 men of Indostan, to learning much inclined, who went to see the elephant, though all of them were blind, that each by observation might satisfy his mind. There you go, that's the opening line. What's the point? Okay, these blind guys from Indostan approached this elephant from different angles, and they each saw something different. Maybe it's a snake, this guy over here. Maybe it's like a fan, kind of felt the ear. Maybe it's like a tree, the big legs. Maybe it's like a snake, the tail. Okay, so there were 6 of them. We only got 4 there because we're saving time. What's that have to do with what we're doing in this module in this class? Well, the idea is a different angle on a decision. It's not just quantitative, okay? And quantitative gets you so far. Sometimes nothing's going to jump out specifically quantitatively. And then what do? Well, thank God you've got a whole brain. You got this other side of your brain. Don't neglect it. Don't ignore it. And this applies to personal things too. Like my daughter was trying to decide where to go. She has a PhD in biostatistics. What the heck is that? That's like more brain power than, anyway, biostatistics. She's doing stuff with COVID and even today. Biostatistics. Deciding on schools. Oh yeah, you can look at all the facts and figures on paper and all the data. Hey, don't forget your other side of your brain. How's that feel? How's that school feel? What's your sense of things? Think about you making the decision to come to Gonzaga. So I told them, don't shut your, because even though you're a biostatistician, don't forget you got a whole brain. Okay. Thank you, Dad, she said, for the wonderful advice you've given me over my life. I'm still waiting to hear that. Okay. All right. So let's see if I got another little thing I can show you here. Let's put the elephants up there. And here's what it says. No, it's an elephant. It's not a fan or a tree or a whatever. It's an elephant. Okay. So let's see if I had another one here I was kind of thinking of using, but it may have gone the way of a lot of things in my file folders. They kind of get a life of their own, and they kind of, I don't know where they go. They go to some overhead visual heaven someplace, never to be seen again. Oh, that's interesting that one has gone off to heaven. Well, that's good. Okay, here, I'll show you this though. Here's another, this is a show and tell little thing where you can kind of think about the puzzle. Let's leave this down here. There this is. That's a piece. Okay, it's a black and white cheap picture, but what you see there is a piece of black walnut wood. You knew that, right? It's black walnut. And this old guy, Malin Kriebel, that's his real name, from Garfield, Washington. Who here's been to Garfield? No, I didn't think so. It's 60 miles from here, out in the wheat fields. So Malin, I was talking to Malin with the old guy, and I was thinking of buying a motorhome from, what the heck was I thinking? But I was sitting in the motorhome, and he had this little puzzle he wanted to spring on me. He said, here's this piece of black walnut, and there are these three shapes, these three holes. Can you envision a plug, a piece that would fill those holes? I said, well, yeah. Well, no. You got a square, you got a circle, you got a triangle. No. One plug that would fit through all those holes, each of those holes separately. Fill the hole, pretty much fill it in. You'd fill in the square, fill in the circle, fill in the triangle. One plug. And I said, well, yeah, I'll make it out of clay and I'll squish it. No. It's another piece of black walnut. One piece. And so you start thinking about this little puzzle. Let's see if I can hide part of it here. You got the idea of the game I'm playing here? There it is. Got an idea? While you're thinking, let's see if I can find something to fill it. Okay. Hide it with this. I had a piece of paper, but like I said, stuff disappears. Okay. So here we go. Here's a solution. I'm trying to get where you can see it. And I can see it. Let me move my stand there. Oh yeah, okay. So a cube, yeah, that'll fill in that little square. Just fill it right in. It's got a cube. How about the circle though? Oh yeah. What am I getting at here? Different angles on things. Look at that circle. It's a cylinder. You look at that cylinder from above, you know what it looks like? It looks like a cube. So you turn that cylinder on end and it fills the circle. But you turn it sideways and it looks like a cube, and it can fill the cube. Now, how about this one? Look at that triangle. He's saying, if you look at something the right way, you're going to see it. It's going to look like a cube. It's going to look like a circle. And it's going to look like a triangle. So what's the theme of whole brain decision making? We're looking at problems from at least a couple angles. From a left brain, using that model, left-right brain, using that as an analogy for different ways of thinking. So looking at it from a left or right brain kind of perspective, two angles at least, right, on the same problem, maybe gives you some richer insight into the decision. And this idea of brain lateralization, I mean, it has some fact to it, you know, that things do happen differently on opposite sides of your brain, but a bit of it's, popular psychology kind of stuff. be that as it may, and there's even some medical things, your left eye is controlled, which my left? My left eye is controlled by my right brain. My left hand is controlled by, oh, that's his hand. But anyway, my left hand is controlled by my right brain. So this is stuff that goes on. But beyond whatever medical stuff and whatever popular psychology stuff might be involved, the left and right brain, that model, that analogy, we're using it as a metaphor. We're using it as a metaphor for different ways of thinking. So, okay, who solved it? You got a cylinder. It can look like a cube. You got a cylinder. Yeah, I can go through there. But then what about this? One piece. Well, here's an idea of what it looks like. It's this shape right here. And if I could show you, I have this at school, the actual physical item, and I just had this picture of it. From this end of this thing is round, okay? This end right here, this is round at this end. And you look at it from above, lay it on its side, see this sharp edge here? Lay that flat, and then you got a cube. And it fills that hole. It'll go through that hole, fill that hole, that cube, it'll fill that. It'll fill that from the one end that's rounded, this end down here, it's rounded. And then you look at it from above. I'll be darned if it's not a triangle. Isn't that kind of amazing? Old Malin Kriebel had a great time watching me sweat, trying to figure that out. And I never did. He brought out this little plug, and I went, oh, God, that's kind of amazing. You can look at it from different ways. One way you look at it, it's a cube. Another way it's a cylinder. Another way it's a triangle. That's what we're doing here with whole brain decision-making, emphasizing the idea of other angles on decision that's just not all analytical, that there's intuition and creativity involved in decision-making, and you'd be remiss, okay, not to consider stuff from that side of your brain. You got a whole brain, okay? Well, here, should I put that up now to that? Here, I'll put that one up. Okay, pretty exciting. Let's see what else we've got. Well, here's something that kind of gets at this. I already showed you part of this, and you thought, what the heck is, what kind of sexist thing is that? And I don't know what kind it was, but on the outline that had, on the handout that had Edna, remember Edna? Poor Edna, she was almost 30 years old and she wasn't married and she had halitosis, but Listerine would fix her up. I'm trying to get this so it's kind of square. But on this handout with Edna, number 54, we got the brain lateralization picture. And there it is, handout 54. And yeah, we already talked about this a little bit, but the left, look, see the left brain controls right hand touch and right eye. It doesn't say that. Left brain controls, oh, that's the left brain controls right hand, right touch. Right brain controls left hand. But the idea of this metaphor, oh yeah, the left side of the brain, it's all the math and science and logic and all this rational, linear kind of stuff. And then that's the left side of the brain. And then the right side of the brain, it's the more imagination, intuition, creativity involved in dance, like that Twyla Tharp article. We're going to, other things that are on that side of the brain, supposedly. Okay, whatever the science is of the thing, beyond that, there is the idea that it's a metaphor for ways of thinking about problems, two ends of the continuum. Fortunately, your brain is connected. Look at that. The corpus callosum connects the two sides so they can talk to each other. Aren't you happy you've got a corpus callosum? Yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. So let me stick this away here. And here's another way of thinking about this perspective. And it's right here. I know it is because it's supposed to be. Let me put it on my lap, see if I can find it easier that way. That. Well, I bet it slipped into this. Oh yeah, it slipped into this file folder. There it is. And I'm going to get my card from underneath this one here so I can put it up. I got two cards there. Here's another way to think about these perspectives. There's two ends of the continuum, thinking about decision making. You still don't have this in your packet, but just kind of hammering this idea, whole brain. You can think about, how about left and right? How about hard and soft? We're going to talk about thinking forward and in reverse. We're going to talk about slow and fast thinking. They kind of fall into this left-right category kind of thing. Here's soft. That's like right brain kind of stuff. Well, should we start with hard? I mean, that's the stuff that's given all the credit generally, really. Logic, reason, precision, work, analysis, the adult. Who here wants to be an adult? Specific, okay? Focused. Yeah, that's the hard side. And that has its place, right? Back to the elephant, you want to grasp the whole elephant. And then the soft side, how about metaphors? We're going to Zaltman, metaphor is central to thought. We're going to talk about Zaltman. Somebody wrote that up. Who did Zaltman? We got the dynamic team of Rory and Anthony did Zaltman. Okay, metaphor. Thinking is metaphoric. A lot of thought is metaphor. Dream, humor. Does humor have a place in decision making? We'll talk about it. Play, how about play? Fantasy, hunch, which is intuition, generalization versus specific, the child versus the adult. Okay, so we got that, back to whole brain, left, right, soft, hard, soft, okay, and other things we're going to cross paths with. So there's that. Can you print screens if you wanted that? Could you print, I don't know, from a video? I'm not sure you can. Then here's kind of what here's this conceptualization of decision making that I've put together. We've got on the left side, quantitative. So we get this sliding continuum, sliding like we did with, I kind of like those. We did one of those when we looked at intangible and tangible products, product intangibles and intangible products. And so we did a sliding kind of continuum on that, if you remember that. But anyway, here's decision making. And we've got quantitative, analytical, left brain, hard, all those things we just looked at with regard to hard. And on the other end of the continuum, as one slides in the other, you get a little bit of one, get more of it as you move across. On the other side, we've got soft, okay, right brain, intuitive versus analytical, qualitative versus quantitative, qualitative. And so we're sliding along here. The idea isn't, you don't want to necessarily be balanced in the middle, but thinking about this range of decision-making items that will apply to decision-making, range of them. There it kind of shows a pretty good range. Okay. So thinking about that, and So what's kind of a point here, you know? Point is you don't necessarily want to be balanced in the middle, like I said, but you want to use the benefits of both sides, both ends of this model, and not be afraid of either end of the continuum, not afraid of the analytical hard stuff, which you're kind of encouraged to embrace, maybe more than the intuitive soft stuff. And I don't know if there could be more fear at this end. The qualitative side of things, the right brain side of things, there could be more bias anyway. I don't know if it's fear in it, but more bias. So, you know, think about the benefits of both ends of this model, not be afraid of either end. So you may favor one end more than the other in the way you attack decisions, but okay, what impacts the way you attack decisions? You know, where you might fall in this model. I already mentioned the idea you may favor one end. So your decision-making style, you know, what approach do you prefer? So your decision-making style, the decision itself, so the structure of the decision, the types of variables, are they quantitative? Are they qualitative? And then the context that you find the decision in, the setting that you find the decision in. And so the environment, how much time do you have available? Time horizon, you know, tools available. So you're looking at a problem. What's your decision-making style? What is the decision itself? You know, what's the structure? What type of variables? That type of thing. And then the context, the environment that you find that decision in can kind of move you along along this continuum here, from one end to the, how much of one and how much of the other. I mean, where do you fit in that thing? So, yeah, left and right has a scientific base of sorts, the left and right brain, but beyond that, like I've said, it's a metaphor for thinking about ways of thinking, two ends of the continuum. Hard and soft is another thing. So there's the left way, the hard way, there's the right way, the soft way, other ways of thinking and attacking problems. So what you're striving for, to realize the benefits of both these brain skills, left, right, hard, soft, slow, fast, we're going to talk about that. The benefits of both these brain skills, you want to think about it that way. Identify your tendency, your proclivities, what you prefer to do, and then use the appropriate approach. Use the appropriate approach. Where you fall on this sliding thing here, depending on your style and strengths of decision making, the decision itself, what are the variables, what's involved, and the context, the environment you find that problem set in. And then your whole brain decision making. There you are, your whole brain decision making. Just like that. Okay. Well, here, so I'm gonna regroup. I've learned to use the pause button a little bit. I think I'll pause here so I can stick some stuff away and come right back in a much more organized, tidy kind of fashion. And let's see if this will let me pause just for a second. Well, just like nothing happened, and my friend joined me here. Who's my friend? Well, there's his little left brain, these busy little beavers grinding away, doing the data analysis. Here's the corpus callosum, you know, the bridge between the two. There they are working away, slaving away. And here's these guys on the wild side. What are they doing? They're flying kites and they're doing yoga and they're just hanging out and they're dancing and filming movies. And okay, there's the two sides of your brain. Okay, so the first article. Yeah, I think we're ready for the first article. This is Einhorn and Hogarth. They've studied decision-making all their lives. They're both at the University of Chicago, and one or the other of them is dead. Maybe they both are dead now. I couldn't tell which one it was for the longest time. But here we go. a couple comments, and you want the real thing, you want the real analysis. Colleen, she did it for you, and I did a swell job, I expect, even though I've not seen it yet, but I expect she did a swell job. So Einhorn and Horgard. And what's this article about? It's decision-making going forward in reverse. And one of the things it gets at is epistemology. What is epistemology? Well, that's how we know things. That's the study of how we know stuff. And so you've got this article out of the Harvard Business Review, I believe, quite a few years ago, but still it's a classic. That gets at this topic of epistemology. How do we know things? So the writing isn't balanced. It spends a lot more time of thinking backward than the thinking forward part of the article. So it's not really parallel kind of writing, if you want to call it that. But it's really kind of getting at left and right, hard and soft. And I'll show you a swell diagram I did ultimately here that links to this. So one of the things it does, it tells this funny story up front about natives off on some island in the Pacific, and they were trying to, they're cave people or what the heck they were. They were trying to, were they worried about the dropping birth rate or the increasing birth rate? They were trying to figure out what caused babies. That's a worthwhile endeavor, you know? And so they do an experiment, you know, they do some experiment kind of thing to try to figure out what causes those babies. And okay, what's it boiled down to? I'll let you, there's a little teaser, you can go check it out. Maybe Colleen summarized that, not sure. I mean, you don't have to even get into that doing the article, but it kind of piques your interest and kind of lets you think about, oh, that's kind of clever, that story they tell. It's kind of the difference between scientism versus sense. They analyze this problem, this issue of birth, what caused birth scientifically, and didn't come up with something they could really statistically hang their hat on. They had a sense of what was causing the decline or the increase in the birth rate. They had a sense of it, but they got lost off into scientism. It's kind of like, well, maybe we'll talk about that again. You know, the idea of big data, thick data. Big data tells you what you do. Yeah, the birth rate's up, the birth rate's down. The thick data kind of gets behind the eyeball. Back to, okay, maybe that doesn't apply, so maybe later on. But scientism versus sense. And so that's going on there. So we get this idea of better thinking backwards, and it talks about use several metaphors. Thinking is mainly in metaphors. Do not rely on only one cue. Sometimes go against the cues. We're going to talk about cues to causality to kind of get at it in this thing. How about causal chains? Chains. One thing causes something that ultimately causes the thing you're looking at. And then generate and test alternative explanations. So you got this thinking backward kind of part of things, which is more soft side, right side of decision making. And then it does a little thing on models. And it said we have some misconceptions of models. Models make errors. Well, yeah, but okay, so do people. Models are static. Well, you can tweak models, you can change them. Models are not worth the cost. Well, yeah, it depends on the situation, but models can save companies millions sometimes. Okay, so it talks about this model building thing as the thinking forward. A little bit on that. Spends most of the time on thinking backward, the intuitive right brain sort of stuff. Let's see. So scientism is analysis, sense is more intuition. Yeah. Talks about different metaphors for the brain, like a muscle, a computer, a sponge. How about the internet or plasticity? That's kind of more modern kind of ways to think about it. So check out what Colleen did there. I expect it's a wonderful thing, but here's a little thing I want to get into that comes off of Einhorn and Hogarth. It comes off of them. And it's a handout in your packet that one of my favorite people put together, me. And God, this is a great, okay. It's a great thing. I think I'll start with this. Yeah. Handout 64. This is, okay, let's get the whole brain guy out of here. See ya. It's nice to get to know you. Look at this handout 64. I made this one just special for you back a few years ago before I even knew you. I made this. And what the heck is going on here? Well, a lot of stuff is going on. On the right-hand side here, where do we start? Let's talk through it in kind of a logical fashion. I've got some notes here that tell me how to do that. We've got the domain of theory up here, and then we got this line across the middle that we cross over into the domain of reality. Okay, so we're trying to understand real systems. We have some theoretical ideas, maybe some models. We've talked about models on how we might understand reality better. So that, like I said, this handout 64. And this stuff here is just kind of components of theory building. You know, on the far left side of here, it says theory. We've got, well, if you cross over into the realm of reality, here's your feelers kind of crossing over into the, here you got some observed regularities, measurement of properties of some items. You know, you're crossing over. Here's my theory. I built this whole theoretical structure. Now, moving into the domain of reality, is it proven out that it's so, okay? And so these are just pieces of theories. You don't have to worry about them, but they're just kind of there. What do we got at the top? We got propositions of law-like generalities, concepts, theoretical definitions, theoretical links, hypotheses, operational. We operationalize things, make it so we can measure it, and then we cross over into the domain of reality and measure it. So that's all pieces of a theory. The more important part of this handout is what's going on over here on the right side of the handout. And so what do we have? We've got deductive theory building. Are you with me? Deductive. And then over here we've got inductive. Whoa, over here is inductive. Deductive, inductive. And maybe you've crossed paths with that in some philosophy class or whatever. But this all links to our left-right, hard-soft, slow-fast kind of concept, this idea of whole brain decision-making. That's what we're still harping on here, right? So here we've got the deductive approach. Deductive, right here. Deductive, okay? Theory building. So we develop a theory. Oh yeah, so how do we do that? We develop a theory. We select some hypotheses for comparison to the real world. We design, I'm just going down here through this, handout 64. We design some research. And then we analyze the results. We break things apart, right? We do some empirical tests, see if they support or don't support the theory. This deductive side of things, to me, it's a top-down approach, okay? It's thinking forward from Einhorn and Hogarth. It's right brain. Oh, no, take it back. It's left brain. It's slow thinking from Kahneman. So it's left brain. So what is top down, forward thinking, left brain, slow from the slow thinking from a Kahneman and Tversky kind of, or Kahneman, just Kahneman. That's the only guy that wrote that article we're reading. That Kahneman article, right? And it's good for testing. Okay, it's good for testing this deductive approach. Versus over here, we've got inductive. Anybody heard of Sherlock Holmes? Inductive theory building. And what goes on here? Inductive. It starts down here. We list, okay, what's it say here? It starts down here. So let's see. We list all the characteristics of the phenomenon. We measure all the characteristics of the phenomenon, okay? And then we kind of move up here. We analyze the data for noteworthy systematic, so it's like synthesis, bringing things together. Here it was analysis, breaking things apart. Here it's synthesis, bringing things together, looking for patterns like Sherlock Holmes might do, okay, this inductive approach. And we're going to talk about cues to causality. That's what kind of comes in here. That cues to causality was from Einhorn and Hogarth, cues to causality. Then we formalize the patterns as theoretical statements. So what do we got going on here? This inductive side. This is bottom up, flowing this way. This is fast thinking, like from Kahneman. This is backward thinking from Kahneman, or from Einhorn and Hogarth, backward thinking. It's right brain. It's good for discovery. This is good for deductive is good for testing. This is good for discovery, kind of coming up with ideas. So one more time, inductive, where are I? Inductive, bottom up, fast thinking from Kahneman, backward thinking from Einhorn and Hogarth, right brain thinking, good for discovery, okay? Sherlock Holmes. Then what this is showing is that the things are working together. You know, and you actually do this. Here's like, you do this deductive thing that's testing, and it kind of links to this discovery side, okay, here. And then you do some discovery, and you cycles into more testing approach with deductive. And so it's like going round and round, inductive to deductive and inductive to deductive, looking at the strengths of those two approaches, back to whole brain kind of stuff. So that's what's going on there. And if I ask you if you had a question, you wouldn't say anything. So you're getting a little more detail here than in class, because you can actually pause this and go back and see what's up. But let me describe a couple other things here. So handout 64, that's a thing of beauty. If I ever saw a thing of beauty, let's turn this, there we go. That's a thing of beauty. Not just because I built it myself. We're going to talk about fast and slow thinking. I've already introduced it here. That's the Kahneman article, but here's what it is. Thinking fast and slow, Kahneman. It's actually 2011. It said 2001, one of the write-ups. And it calls it System 1 and System 2. But System 1 is fast. It's intuition. It's emotional. It's automatic. It's subconscious a lot of times. That's one end of that thinking continuum, versus System 2, slow, deliberate, more logical, calculating, conscious. Yeah. I mean, how many different perspectives on this metaphor are there? This kind of gets at it a bit. When you've got the deductive side that's forward thinking, it's top down, it's left brain, it's slow thinking, good for testing. You got the inductive side, bottom up, right brain, inductive, fast thinking, thinking backward, discovery. It's back to my continuum, Where's that swell continuum? I mean, it's kind of back to that. It's decision making. You know, we got the left brain, analytical, hard. We did, yeah. Deductive is hard, right? They didn't say that properly. Deductive is hard. Inductive is soft, right? Back to that thing. So you got this whole pile of items you can kind of. It's like the old joke about there are two kinds of people in the world: those that put everything into two categories and those that don't. I think that's a joke. Okay, well, do we do this? Here's a little story. I mean, first, what is inductive and deductive? I mean, just for what it's worth, you've got more exposure to it than I have, I expect, but deductive moves from the general to the specific, from a known principle to the unknown, from premises to logical conclusions. Inductive moves from specific to the general, the forest versus the trees, you know, look at the whole forest, observes individual facts and extends them to other areas. And so here's a little picture that kind of gets at this flow of things. The idea of how these cycle round and round, be whole brain decision makers. You know, here's this kind of thing. You don't have this in your packet, but you know, here's the deductive logic: concept formation, hypothesis testing, acquisition of appropriate data, measuring it, and organize. Okay, now we organize and analyze the data, evaluate and learn from the results, and then concept. Here's an inductive flow. So here's deductive logic and measurement and what's it say? Measurement and analysis, deductive, measurement, analysis, interpretation, looking for patterns, and then you got the inductive flow coming back up here and flowing into the. So here we've got testing. Red is discovery, testing, discovery, and then we test it round. Okay, so here's a little story that kind of gets this across. Looking at a consumer, thinking about consumers doing this stuff kind of automatically. So you want to buy a new reliable car. There you go. And so here's the inductive approach. You talk to your friends and how things worked out for them. You look at consumer reports. You talk to other folks. You just kind of, you know, just kind of get a sense of what's going on in the marketplace from friends and stuff online and consumer reports, and you come up with a theory. Toyota is the most reliable used car. Okay. So you've gone through this discovery thing, looking for patterns. So here you are, a consumer. Want to buy a used car, reliable used car, do all this stuff, talk to people, look at stuff online, consumer report. And you come up with a model or a theory. The theory is Toyota is the most reliable used car. Then what do? You buy a Toyota, okay? You buy a Toyota. And so you've done all this, you've done all the theory building, and then you test it. You know, you come up with the model, the generalization from all the patterns, you apply the pattern to your specific circumstance, and you buy a used Toyota. So now you've tested, now you're testing it real life in your own life. Did the discovery, now you're testing it. And you add that test to more discovery for the future for the next car you buy. If you're with me on how that flows together, they just, there was a consumer example of what I saw there kind of scientifically. Okay. Well, let's pause again here as I collect my stuff and move stuff around, so I don't have to belabor the issue with you sitting there as I fumble around here. Back in a flash. This probably saves you a fair amount of pain watching me fumble around once I've learned how to use the pause button. Here's a last thing. So we got the, okay, whole brain, left, right, fast, slow, inductive, deductive, forward, backward, hard, soft. Okay, did I already say that? I think we're getting that driven home a bit. We're going to do a few more things on that, of course, but here's one last thing out of Einhorn and Hogarth. And this was cues to causality. And this goes back to John Stuart Mill. Is that the guy? 1850 or so? Some things he proposed and how we know, how we can determine causal relationships, what causes what. John Stuart Mill, what was he a philosopher, an economist? What was he? You tell me. And so here's some cues to causality. What the cause induces some effect, okay? And so this is kind of catching what Einhorn and Hogarth did. This isn't a handout that you have, but cues to causality. And so let's start at the top. Number one, associative variation. Well, this is correlation from the Einhorn article, I believe. And what I've drawn is what it's getting at. There's some correlation involved. That the cause goes, that's C for cause, E for effect. The cause goes up, the effect goes up. Direct relationship. Or the cause goes down, the effect goes down. Direct. Or there's inverse, right? So invert, direct positive, direct negative, inverse, cause goes up, effect goes down, or vice versa. So there's some correlation. You can see the movement. And that can be a cue to what's causing what to happen. You think about decision making, okay? Maybe looking at historical information and how things have shaken out in your marketplace, whatever the decision might be. Correlation. How about sequence of occurrence? I think Einhorn Hogarth called it temporal order. The cause precedes the effect. The cause happens. You see this cause thing going on, and you see a pattern. The effect follows on the heels of the cause. You got correlation, you got this temporal order. The cause always precedes the effect. Here we've got the absence of other causal factors. That's not in Einhorn Hogarth. C is the only thing that changed. That's what that smudge says. C is the only thing that changed. That kind of helps you know that maybe that cause was the cause. And then we have proximity and similarity. I think these were both in Einhorn and Hogarth. Proximity, close together there they are, close together, cause and effect, all cuddled up beside each other in time or space or both. They're together. They're close to one another. Proximity, close together, time and space or both. And then similarity. The cause is like the effect. So the cause may resemble the effect through analogy or metaphor or in duration or strength or magnitude. There's some similarity. The cause is like the effect. So there's a little picture of cues to causality. Kind of goes back to John Stuart Mill, 1850. How we can know these kinds of things. What the relationship? What causes what? And then you can do it quantitatively, analytically, but here's some philosophically orientation on causes and effects. Okay, that should take care of Einhorn Einhorn and Hogarth pretty well. Let's look at the next article. And this is, I keep talking about thinking fast and slow. Kahneman article. Kahneman, let's haul it out here. Kahneman's a Nobel Prize winner, okay? And him and Tversky did a lot of stuff on behavioral economics. I think he probably got the Nobel Prize for, and it must have been economics. And with his old partner who had passed away years ago, Tversky, Paul Kahneman, what was Tversky's name? I don't know. Did a thing on prospect theory, which was interesting, behavioral side of decision making. So what Max, who's got this? Max and Brendan had were summaries of an article, summaries of a book, maybe a couple of them, a couple summaries that they were asked to kind of wade through as they looked at Kahneman. Oh, Amos Tversky, yeah, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. So here's I showed you that one little picture. Well, maybe I could dig it out again. That little picture of the difference between hard or fast and slow. This is fast and slow, not hard and soft. Oh yeah, I put it in here. Should have paused you more, but okay. So there you go. That's what Daniel Kahneman had there. So system one uses, are we starting with one? Fast, intuitive, okay. It uses association and metaphor. It kind of produces a quick and dirty view of reality. It's more automatic, it's fast, it's intuitive, largely unconscious, okay? It's kind of right brainish kind of stuff. That's system one, the fast approach. It's called fast. And then system two, it's slow, deliberate, analytical, consciously effortful. It takes energy to do it, okay? That's, which end do I want to go to here? That's the slow end of things, system two. A lot of times it seems to be the boss, but it tires easily. You can only focus so much attention, and that's kind of what it gets at. And kind of look at the idea of the book that these pages summarized. The automatic system one, the fast system, is the hero of the book. System two, the slow system, is quiescent, it seems, when your mood is a happy one. It's especially quiescent. It doesn't interfere. It just kind of sits back, and that's kind of the distinction there. So other things. I mean, here's one thing that you get in this in this article. You get a whole shopping list of errors that are made in decision making. God, it goes on and on. I mean, there's like 48 of them or something like that. There are some categories of well, maybe I should, okay, there's categories of errors. Maybe I'll sum up fast and slow at the end here. heuristic biases, overconfidence, some stuff regarding choices where you get into prospect theory, which was losses loom larger than gains. That's Count Daniel Kahneman, Amos Tversky. You know, other categories of items, like 48. It just kind of goes on and on, looking at these errors. Check that out. I mean, that's okay. The main thing is system one, fast, which subconscious, value-driven beliefs, influence, or gut reaction, jumps to conclusions regarding causality, operates effortlessly, can be wrong, but is often right, and it's influenced by heuristics. What's a heuristic? It's like a rule of thumb, some shortcut kind of thing. That's fast. System one, right brain. Slow, system two, left brain from Kahneman, articulates judgments, makes choices, endorses or rationalizes ideas and feelings, makes up stories to either confirm or deny those conclusions, requires conscious effort to engage. It gets tired, can be wrong or right depending on how hard it works, examines those heuristics when so inclined. It might just skip heuristics. So that's a little view of thinking fast and slow. Thank you, Max and Brendan, for taking us through that. I'm taking these out of order a little bit here now, because I want to go to Zaltman, because Zaltman's still in keeping, and the others start delving more deeply into one side of the brain or the other. Zaltman actually is a pretty good transition from whole brain decision making to the specifics of right, soft, okay? So get more into the specifics of intuition and creativity. So Zaltman. And Zaltman is an interesting article for a few reasons. One reason that struck me initially was that it's an article out of the Journal of Marketing Research. And the Journal of Marketing Research, like that Tull article that talked about when we looked at response functions, remember some of the math that was in there? Was that the Journal of Marketing Research or marketing? Well, I forget. Marketing Research, yeah, it was Marketing Research. Pages out of the Journal of Marketing Research looked like this. This was the article that was right before or after the Zaltman article. You know, I mean, that's the Journal of Marketing Research. Pretty esoteric, heavily quantitative. And then we hit the Zaltman article, you're going, oh, geez, that's like a breath of springtime. I mean, no numbers at all. And it's like, you know, you get this total break. So Zaltman, we got the dynamic team of Rory and Anthony slogged their way through this article. And I hope I told them, hey, kind of cut to the chase, get to the 9 premises and tell us about those. Because here's what Zaltman got at in this classic article. Rethinking marketing research, putting people back in. And this was probably written before big data was a big deal. Now, what is he trying to do? Back to our comments earlier on about big data versus thick data, he's trying to get behind the eyeballs of people, moving from what they do. Yeah, we can catch all the stuff they do, you know, kind of all the purchases they make and the decisions they make, and look at all the demographic stuff. You know, don't forget the demographic trap. That's just a skeleton. You can get all the demographic stuff. What about getting behind the eyeballs? Getting inside the psyche, the brain of this decision maker. And that's what thick data is trying to do, get back in here someplace, not just all this stuff on the surface, my behavior and my demographic profile and all that. Let's move it back into beliefs and attitudes and, you know, some deeper kind of maybe stuff you can't even consciously always express. That's what this article, applying these, you know, these premises that he delves into, that's what it's trying to fulfill, get behind the eyeballs, get back inside the individual, what's really driving behavior, decision making. So here we go. Let's see if I can well, do I even want to put that up? I don't know. Here's 8 of the 9 premises. Why is this such a mess? I'm not sure exactly why it's such a mess. Why did I put that up there? So, okay, I put that up there so you'll look at, God. So you'll look at the write-up that Max and Brendan did. Wrong. We just did that. You'll look at the write-up that Rory and Anthony did. Sorry, Rory and Anthony. I knew it was you all the time. Well, there you go. Let's talk about it. Here's what Zaltman contends, and I think the contentions were pretty accurate. We're going beyond left brain stuff, the shortcomings of data, perhaps. Thinking about some other items that are not always included, ways of thinking about people and how they make decisions that aren't delved into a lot of times. So how about number 1? These are some premises based on research that are kind of beyond left brain, okay? It's kind of where we're at. Here I am, right over here. There we can do both maybe, but I'm gonna look over here at this. So, premise number 1. Thought is image-based, not word-based. And you're asking people to respond verbally about stuff. And they think in pictures. Makes it tough. And so enhancing image activity more directly helps to clarify, clearly identify and completely represent thought and behavior patterns. Thoughts arise from images. And so that's a basic thing that we know about the way people think. Most communication, number 2, most communication is nonverbal. 80% is nonverbal. Humans communicate by touch, paralanguage, spatial cues, temporal cues, eye contact, all kinds of things. It's important to go beyond the verbal because people can't communicate a lot of things because thought is image-based, and now most communication is nonverbal. Number 3, metaphor is central to thought. Metaphors involve understanding, experiencing one thing in terms of another. It enriches the way we see things. And so helping people think about the metaphors involved in what they're doing, the decisions they're making. Okay, so premise 1, thoughts image-based, not word-based. Number 2, communication is mainly most communication nonverbal. Number 3, metaphor is central to thought. Metaphors are important to eliciting hidden knowledge. Metaphors hide as well as reveal thoughts and feelings. And so trying to unveil mental constructs via metaphors. How about this? Number 5, what's this mean? Cognition is embodied. Okay, cognition, the way we think about, the way we think, our consciousness. You know what? It exists inside this physical body, this idea of consciousness. And so metaphors come from images, and they can get at this idea of what's inside this bodily experiences. Cognitive operations that provide coherence to our experience are inside this physical structure. Okay, so cognition is embodied. Number 6, how about this one? Emotion and reason are equally important and commingled in decision making. Equally, emotion and reason are equally important and commingled in decision making. The essence of emotions and feelings shape the metaphorical process of reasoning. Hence, reason and emotion are not to be considered opposite, they say, he says. Okay. They're not independent, but they're commingled. Okay, number 7, most thought and emotion and learning occur without our awareness. Emotion and cognitive functions with guided thought and behavior occur without awareness. We don't know what's going on, that it's happening. Mental models guide and select the selection and processing of stimuli. So what we know and how we know it, how we know what we know, influences what we sense, and what we sense influenced what we know. I mean, it's just all okay. So mental models guide selection and processing of stimuli. And then number 9 is on the back side here, but so mental models guide the selection and processing of stimuli. Number 9, different mental models may interact. Yeah, models are fluid and connected and not fixed and isolated. Hence, a strong activation of a mental model in one context may activate a mental model in another, and so on. You know, they kind of work together. And Einhorn and Horgath kind of talked to those last 2 different models, you know, thinking forward, thinking reverse, and talk about the idea of models in general from a thinking forward kind of perspective. So that's what the shortcomings that Zaltman saw in the way we do consumer research, putting people back into consumer research and other types of research. And so the premises are the big deal, I think. They kind of get at this idea, you know, you got a whole brain. I mean, you got thought is image-based, not all word, not just word-based, not word-based. Communication's nonverbal, metaphors, and cognition is embodied. How about the gut feeling from instinct or intuition? So what he does, I don't know how much Rory and Brendan, Rory and Anthony are going to tell us about the procedures, but it goes on a bit. He's got this 9-step thing where, you know, he develops a technique, the ZMET technique, for assessing people coming off of those 9 premises. And so he has them tell stories and with pictures and collect images and sort them and develop constructs and come up with metaphors and vignettes and digital images. And it just goes on and on. Here's one little summary thing. You know, we got these. Now here are those 9 premises. The 9 premises across here that I read to you. And here are these different pieces of this analysis technique, this measuring technique, storytelling, missed image, story, and where they fit relative to those 9 premises. You know, so it goes on. It gives us some examples. They're kind of interesting, but the main thing, catch the 9 premises that that he presents to us to enrich in the way we see, the way we measure consumers and other kind of measurement. Okay, let me regroup ever so slightly here. And now delving more deeply into the right side. Got the idea of whole brain and some angles on whole brain. Multiple things are on the right and multiple things on the left. And okay, you got the whole idea of the structure, especially from that diagram 64 with inductive, deductive. So here are some articles. Hold it, get that stuff so it doesn't fall all over the place. There we go. Oh, here's a magazine. How about this magazine? I don't know if it's still on the market. Intuition, the magazine of the higher potential of the mind, many kinds of mind, theory of multiple intelligences. Intuition magazine. I saw this other article here. We've got a hunch. Intuition is in. Okay. There was that. Here was a story of this lady who had this turnaround assignment, bringing this this business back up from the grave. She had some experience. It was kind of in the toy industry or the game industry or something. And she took on a turnaround assignment. How would she advise others weighing the risk of a turnaround assignment? Research, research, and research, she says, and then go with your gut instinct. There's a point, this Wall Street Journal, there's a point where you have enough information to act, she says. If you wait to get everything, you're too late. And don't, oh, here's someone else, maybe this is her or someone else. Don't let adverse facts get in the way of a good decision. What the heck's that? Okay. Don't let adverse facts get in the way of a good decision. Research, 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 and then go with your gut. If you wait too long, it's too late. So some examples there. I mean, there are stories of, there's a picture here. Oh, there he, where is he? That's not the best picture. Where's the best picture? Well, maybe that's as good as you're going to get. All right, quit looking. Just go with the one you got. His friends call him Smiling Rupert. There he is, Rupert Murdoch. Fox News Corp, Fox News. Is he the guy? Fox News, what else? All kinds of stuff. Here was one of his lieutenants back in the day. Newspapers, magazines, movies, books, television, property, all kinds of stuff. Said, most corporations are much more analytical about making acquisitions, while Rupert is instinctive, says this guy. I have no doubt that Rupert has made deals by scribbling a few calculations on the back of an envelope. Well, how's he doing that? Okay. Well, we're kind of knocking on the door here of intuition and what it might be. One place, one angle on intuition is that it's frozen analysis. And this was Herbert Simon kind of had this perspective. Herbert Simon was a Nobel Prize winner. And presented the idea that intuition, if it was good intuition, was actually kind of based in experience, that you've been down this road so many times that you just knew. You didn't really know entirely how you knew things, but you knew it. And it didn't, to other folks on the outside, it looked like, God, he's just shooting from the hip there. I mean, he's just, but it's frozen analysis. The analysis had been done back in the past, and it's kind of stuck up in here someplace, and you tap into it. Herbert Simon, he did stuff with, what was his Nobel Prize? I don't know, like psychology, decision-making, maybe. He did stuff with chess masters. And he would show them a chessboard, you know, these masters. He could show them a chessboard from a game that had unfolded. And they could, you know, he'd show it to them for some time, seconds, minutes, whatever. And then he'd ask them to reconstruct the chessboard. And they could do it very accurately. But from a game that had unfolded naturally. Because they played a lot of chess, and they kind of knew how games would unfold. And they could reconstruct that chessboard. If you gave them a chessboard with chessmen randomly kind of placed on the board, they were no better than you and I. But from a game that had unfolded. Okay, so what was the idea? They'd been down the road so many times. They knew it. They knew where the pieces would be. So like Rupert, he'd been down the road so many times buying, making mega deals. He didn't have to do a bunch of calculations. So what is, so frozen analysis, you think about that. What is intuition? Let's see if I got some other ideas here. Yeah, frozen analysis. How about, how about Spinoza, the philosopher? What's Spinoza say? A superior way of knowing ultimate truth without the use of prior knowledge or reason. Ultimate truth, okay, that's Spinoza. How about Webster's dictionary? The power of knowing or knowledge obtained without recourse to inference or reasoning, innate or instinctive knowledge, familiarity, a quick, ready apprehension. Okay, well, you got those. Jung had his definition, you know. Yeah, well, maybe that's enough. Here's an angle on intuition. And it's kind of a 4-level kind of thing. And maybe you've experienced some of these, maybe not all of them, but four perspectives on intuition. And then we'll embellish on it a little bit because there's other folks that we're going to read some Dugan stuff. He's got a kind of angle on intuition. So here's the 4 angles, aspects of intuition. Let me list them out there for you. Physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, okay, aspects of intuition. First, physical. And they talk about, remember, cognition is embodied. Remember that from Zaltman? Your mental abilities, your mind is inside of this physical thing. And strong body responses, bodily sensations. Why do they call it the gut? Because sometimes your gut feels a certain way and it can be telling you things. Maybe you can't verbalize, back to those premises from Zaltman. You might not be able to verbalize it. Communicate, you're thinking in pictures, don't forget, and most communication is nonverbal and some of these other things. So, you know, your gut might be telling you things, or your arms bristle, or some physical thing going on, headaches, stomach aches, whatever. And think about that as an aspect of intuition, an angle on intuition. That might be a part of it. Maybe you've experienced that. How about the emotional level? things just don't feel right. Some feeling, some affective thing. Maybe you're picking up some cues somehow, that maybe you have some passion about something. So, yeah, emotion, right and wrong, picking up something there. So, emotional level, affective, feeling, physical, emotional, and then mental. And this is the idea of things kind of percolating away, and you get this blast of insight. I mean, here were a couple, let's see if I can find those here. Well, here was one from, the classic one of the mental aspect to intuition is Archimedes. And he had this problem that was presented to him by the king of Syracuse, maybe. It was like an island off of Italy. Kind of a Greek island, but it was close to Italy, whatever. And the question that was posed to him was, is the king's crown alloyed with silver? Is it just all gold? And so, the story of Archimedes. He was taking a bath. And the whole idea of specific gravity, is that kind of the idea? This water displacement, that if the thing was pure gold, it would displace more water than if it was alloyed with silver because of the density of the material. Something like that. And so Archimedes had this aha experience, this eureka experience, and streaked through the streets of Syracuse because he had found it, right? He had found it, eureka. And it was Crick and Watson, I think, the guys who found the DNA, the double helix molecule, DNA, back in the 50s. I think Watson's kind of become a goofball a little bit in recent history if he's still alive, but kind of unusual guy. But here's what do you say? Suddenly I became aware that both pairs could be flip-flopped over and still have their bonds facing the same direction. It strongly suggested that the backbones of the two chains run in opposite direction. This became the famous double helix of the DNA molecule. And suppose, I don't know, somewhere in there he was waiting in a car while his wife was out shopping for groceries or something. Kind of, okay, Archimedes, James Watson and the DNA, trying to solve the puzzle of the DNA. Einstein, here's a quote from Einstein. Only intuition resting on sympathetic understanding of experience can reach them. These natural laws, he's talking about these natural laws. There are no logical paths to these natural laws. Only intuition resting on a sympathetic understanding, like it has the experience underneath it, some knowledge underneath it, but intuition makes the leap to the connections. Okay, so we did physical, we did emotional, and now we're doing spiritual. And this is like a still small voice kind of idea. I mean, it's like, here's the story. Okay, did you go to church on Easter? Here, you couldn't, so you got an excuse this year. Elijah, this is from 1 Kings, chapter 19. Elijah's taken on the priest of Baal. It's a good story. The priest of Baal were the boys of Jezebel and Ahab. Jezebel, what a woman. Okay, and he took on these priests of Baal, bringing fire down, lightning down, consuming this stuff on the altar. Priest of Baal couldn't do it, but Elijah did it. And he soaked his offering in the wood and whatever ox, whatever it was, soaked it with water, and he prayed and prayed. Bzz, it licked up the water and everything. And so he told the crowd that was around there, he said, those priests of Baal are fakes. Let's dispatch them. And so they killed all 400 of them. And Ahab and Jezebel were not happy about it. There's a point to this story. And after that event, he ran for it, okay? Even I only am left, and they seek my life to take it away. He was in a funk, hiding in a cave. And because as Jezebel and Ahab, okay, killed 400 of their boys. And here's what happened to him. He's in a funk in this cave. And God said to Elijah, go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great strong wind rent the mountains and brake to pieces the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. It kind of, and the voice said, and behold, there came a voice unto him and said, what doest thou here, Elijah? And it was God talking to him. And so thinking about prayer, getting some insight from beyond you, okay? And that's the spiritual test. So we had physical, we had emotional, we had mental, we had a spiritual aspect to intuition, still small voice. Maybe you think about tests like peace test. Are you peaceful about a decision? That's a test. Are you peaceful? That's like a spiritual kind of test. Or beyond peace. How about joyful? How about that? Feel joyful about a decision, okay? So there's a little intro to, you think about the joy and the peace test. Those aren't bad on the spiritual side of intuition. There's a little intro to intuition. We have those four aspects of intuition: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. But here's Dugan. We're going to talk about Dugan. Is this in the next Dugan article? Or is this in the FYI article? I forget. Look at this. Dugan, strategic intuition. I think this is FYI now. How about ordinary intuition? It's like physical, emotional, gut feeling. How about expert? That's like blink. Let's do that article. And frozen analysis. That's like expert intuition. Blink, what the heck's that? And then strategic. This is like the mental, the percolating. That's like flash. We're going to talk about blink versus flash, okay? So there's those three kind of coming off of Dugan and some of the things he talks about. Should we move forward here? Let's see if I can take care of business. Hang on. Back at it. And Jan and Francesca, how you doing on that article? Is it out there waiting for me? So flash versus blink. So Jan and Francesca cranked that out for us. And first, blink. I mean, this is Malcolm Gladwell. And he did blink, the power of thinking without thinking. He did outliers, how to become an expert. Why can't I think of the other one? Outliers. Well, what's blink? Blink is one of the concepts out of the blink article is thin slicing. Like you get this little How much information do you need to make a decision? And so he's talking about experts like in emergency rooms and things like that, where, you know, you just need little pieces of information. And this might be linked to frozen experience a bit. Just need little pieces of information to help you make a decision. And so making these quick decisions, these are experts. So you get that, that's what Gladwell brought to the party. But what you have here in Flash versus Blink, yeah, Blink, like I just showed you, Blink is like this expert opinion, frozen analysis. You know, we talk about ordinary as physical, emotional, but those aspects of intuition. What they're saying is Flash is the mental. That's what happened to Archimedes. That's what happened to, you know, it's percolating in the back of your brain. Archimedes trying to solve this puzzle. James Watson him and Crick trying to solve the pattern of this DNA molecule, percolating in the back of the brain. So you have this distinction between those three categories of intuition. You get this in this Flash versus Blink article. Strategic intuition can be encouraged. Okay. You can do things to kind of give it a boost. And later on, you know, we're going to do more Dugan stuff. Back when we have intuition as the doorway in the Dugan article, got the insight matrix, right, Joe? Insight matrix. And this is a tool. Strategic intuition has helped human achievement kind of leap forward, is what he's contending, what Dugan contends. And this insight matrix, this thing was developed by GE, helps you facilitate this kind of thinking as a mere mortal, a normal kind of person. So takes Blink, talks about Blink from Gladwell, which is, you know, fast decision-making because of being an expert in the topic, and then compares it to these other approaches. And tell you what, why don't you check out the write-up that's done by Jan and Francesca, and it'll help you a lot. Then the Agor article, that is after Zaltman. And Agor's kind of an expert in intuitive decision making. He's written some different things, a book or two, or anyways, been interviewed in Wall Street Journal and things like that. He's got this article here that we look at. And one of the things he's getting at in this Agor article, and you can read the write-up done by Sarah. Did you like this article? It's a nice, friendly little article, don't you think? So, yeah, Sarah wrote this up. So what it's kind of getting at here is the idea of human capital, that folks that have these intuitive abilities, it's a human resource that maybe you ought to think about managing effectively, taking care of. And so it kind of gets at the idea of appreciating, what do we got? Appreciating folks that have these skills identifying them, appreciating them, encouraging them, supporting them, that have these kind of brain skills. So it's like a human resource management kind of thing. It talks about intuition clubs, okay? The intuitive group would generate ideas and the thinking group would analyze the ideas. The more, so you get the right brainers generating stuff and the left brainers kind of getting out the pro forma accounting kind of financial stuff going and seeing if it makes sense. So that's kind of in a nutshell what's going on with the Agor article. And there was, oh, I guess maybe you didn't get this. So intuition and strategic planning is the name of it. And then, I don't know if you got this, follow your intuition, the unconscious you may be the wiser half. That was a Wall Street Journal article. I'm not sure that got stuck in your packet. Okay. Here is something you get from the kind of a summary of things from that Agor article. It's handout 65. Should we look at that? This is talking about intuition and where it fits and some ideas. So handout 65, situations where intuitive decision-making skills are useful. High level of uncertainty, little previous precedent, reliable facts are limited, time pressure, there's pressure to be right, several plausible options, all supported by factual data. You have to choose one, back to research, then trust your gut, back to that woman in Wall Street Journal. Skills of highly intuitive executives, adept at identifying new trends. They see the future before you do. It's like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. Discovering new and productive ways of solving difficult problems. Ingenious inventors and pioneers. Often inspiring leaders, effective in winning enthusiastic support. Okay, so we got situation where these skills are useful. Skills of highly intuitive executives. Environment that aids intuition, intuitive decision-making. Final judgments postponed as long as possible. Interdisciplinary, a lot of different angles on things from different disciplines. Dialogue is relaxed, open, free of personal ego. Mind mapping, okay, I'll show you a mind map. And then organization structure that facilitates intuitive decision-making. Establish overall organizational model that will facilitate the use and development of intuitive skills. So back to managing these folks, human resource. Structure management teams and groups, meetings to cultivate and nourish intuitive brain skills. Start an intuition club with your organization with specific purpose of developing intuitive brain skills for applied use. So, I mean, there might be some hazards there of pigeonholing people, sticking them in a box where maybe they don't want to be forever, but that's kind of what they're getting at. What's a mind map? Mind maps are kind of interesting things, and here you go. I'll show you a mind map. Let's see. Let me look here for the mind map for a second. Okay, back to that handout 65, and situations where intuitive decision making is useful, highly intuitive skills of highly intuitive executives, environment that aids intuitive decision making, and organization structure. Have those four things. Under aids to intuitive decision making, we've got mind mapping techniques are used to explore and record the conclusions reached for clients. Well, this is a mind map. Look at that. What the heck? what's it say in the center there? It says, preparing an address for an upcoming meeting. This guy, it's like the stream of consciousness kind of thing. It's like this, he's laying out all these pieces and parts. That's a mind map as he's thinking about how he's going to do this speech and all the aspects and features of it. That's mind mapping. It's kind of like, oh, here's a picture of inside your brain and how all these concepts are fitted together as you start going down these different rabbit trails, okay? I don't have a color version of this. I wonder where it went. Here is, check this, oh, this is great. There's my personal mind map. You can kind of see what my mind looks like. Where's the center of this thing? Where is it? Right? It's right there. Dean, retirement speech. I had a boss. He still teaches here at Gonzaga. He was my boss. He was the dean of the School of Business for 30 years. What the heck? He was my boss for 30 years. He was the dean for 40 years. I don't know, 38 anyway. And I had to do a little speech at his retirement, one of his many retirement parties. And so there it is, Dean, retirement speech. And there's my mind map. Whoa. Well, what I did, I ended up color coding it. This is not the color, but okay. It's like you're following your thought processes the way your brain does it. You're sitting down thinking about how I'm going to do this speech or whatever it might be, some problem you're trying to solve. These two both have to deal with making a speech, but you know, it's a brain dump. And you see how all the things are connected, and then you start making sense of it and come up with the final product or the solution to the problem. There's a mind map for you. The last thing that is on the list is the Dugan and Mason article. It's an FYI article, but these are interesting articles. You well could just want to read that article just for fun. Because here's something you get out of the Dugan. Oh, am I getting ahead of myself? Let's see. Is it the Dugan strategic intuition? Let's see. Dugan and flash versus blank. Strategic intuition. I think this is the Dugan and Mason. No, geez, I'm not sure. I'll put it up anyway. Check this out. I think, okay, I got it right. Okay, here it is, right. Okay, this is it. Yeah, pretty sure. Dugan and Mason. Here's okay, this little teaser for Dugan and Mason and what you get in that FYI article. If you want to kind of catch some more stuff on intuition from Dugan, he's an interesting author on this topic. Here are some things that benefit, and maybe it's in another one of his articles, maybe used it multiple places, but I got it kind of stuck to Mason, Dugan and Mason. Here are some aids to decision making. On the intuitive, think about strategic decision making. That's the, we had ordinary, expert, and strategic. This is the mental, the percolating kind of, this is the flash kind of decision making. Aids to flash, strategic decision making. Sleep, fluid thinking, non-rigid, non-rule based. So sleep, kind of between wakefulness and sleep maybe. How about being offline, low stress, relaxed, non-judging, taking that hot shower, jogging around a park, riding your bicycle, okay? So sleep, and I've had some examples on on that period between wakefulness and sleep. I had examples from, I don't know if I'll get to them in this class, examples from Mozart, examples from Paul McCartney writing music, examples from Poincaré, a mathematician who came up with some of the foundation to Einstein's theory of relativity, some of the basic math. There's between wakefulness and sleep. They're half awake, half asleep, and stuff's coming. How about Edgar Allan Poe? Of course, he was into opium too. I don't know what that did with it, but between wakefulness and sleep. Offline, got some stuff about the father of modern advertising, David Ogilvy. He'd ride his bicycle. He'd relax, go on long vacations, and during those times, all these ideas would come to him for managing his business, coming up with client programs and campaigns. And he also noted he was on friendly terms with John Barleycorn. You can look John up. He's a pretty well-known guy. John Barleycorn. Okay, offline. And then defocused, daydreaming, diffused, thinking about other stuff. You're taking a bath. I mean, offline, okay? Offline, like Archimedes. Low stress, taking a bath, defocus. He was thinking about the bubbles, and he forgot about his clothes when he had that eureka experience. Defocused, attention, daydreaming, diffused. Okay, there you go. I think I'm done. If there are questions about any of this stuff, let me know. And let me know about, I'll send an email, let you know this is out there, and let you know about the Blackboard stuff if you get grades, if you can get to them out there for the quantitative exercise. If you need me, I'm around. Toodaloo.